Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, my lords, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for stopping by. We have a wonderful treat this evening. It might be the afternoon when you're watching this. I don't actually know. So whatever time it is, wherever you are, let's thank the lucky stars that we have Vegas magician and mentalist extraordinaire, champion of making your board meetings disappear. I did enjoy that from your website, by the way, sir. Love a pun. love a pun. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kent Axell. Yay, the crowd goes wild.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today.
That's my ventriloquism.
Yeah. Well, let's start as we mean to go on.
He's halfway there.
It's technically speaking, I'm naked from the waist down. No. Let's not turn this into an episode of Red Shoe Diaries straight away. So I
don't know what that is.
No, me neither. Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
I'm far too young. Maybe, sort of.
Good.
I don't know. My wife's going to be in the corner going, "Shut up and get on with it. Shut up and get on with it." Okay.
Before we get on with it, I have to mention that these Waffle House coffee mugs are the best designed coffee mugs I've ever had. This is the secret. If you're having hot coffee, the rim is so large. It's thick, right? It gives a lot of space for the hot drink to thin out and get cooler as it reaches your lips. You have ultimate control over this. I had to admire this. I'm going to be thinking about it if I don't mention it now. So
100%.
It's done.
Do it. Waffle House.
Everyone get yourself a Waffle House mug.
You know what you're doing with your cups. That's always good to hear. Respect the beverage. Right?
Yes.
It's
yes. I've been studying cups for 27 years.
Yeah, well,
inside joke there, friends.
More of that in a little bit. Now, the setup for this discussion is it kind of goes back to Michael Murray, who we had on the podcast a good long while back, who almost flippantly spoke about the way he solved the lottery. And me and my friend Adam, we were talking to him at the time, and it was basically, no. What? What do you mean you solved the lottery? And granted, it wasn't the whole, he got to the machines and he got the numbers, or there was the whole Darren Brown is using green screen silliness, whatever it is. He just did his own version of the randomized nature of the balls. And found that he could predict the outcome or influence the outcome, whatever his routine ended up being. And with the role that I moved into in private investigation through the private sector and all of the education that we run through various law enforcement tactics, human behavior and the connection towards thinking about problems comes up a lot, right? Comes up a lot. And so you could frame a magic trick. Like within the nature of the ambitious card, you could say the magician showed us the ace of spades, and then he put it back in the middle, and then, hey presto, it was back on the top. Or you could frame it as, well, he showed me the ace of spades, and then he made it look like it was going back in the middle, and then it was on top. There's different ways and means by which everybody look at a problem. So let's kind of start macro and wean our way in. Why, in your experience, good sir, do you think it is that magicians, mentalists, those of a prestidigitation background, are uniquely positioned, or maybe you don't think they're uniquely positioned, to be able to look at problems in a different way than everybody else to solve them? There might be those that go, "Oh, I can't make it look like I can read anyone's mind. I barely know what my dog wants to do from time to time. How do I approach that kind of problem? What does it take from the individual?"
Okay, so the way that I'm interpreting this question is what positions magicians, what specially positions magicians and mentalists to be able to look at problems from a different angle.
Correct.
And so I think the only thing that actually positions us to be able to do that is experience in doing that. Like there are people who do that, who have done that in the past, and we're literally entering into the field of when you begin in magic, oftentimes your brain is constantly trying to solve problems that appear to be impossible.
Yes.
And you're just most of the time you're failing at doing that. And you're just then learning some other angle from which to look at it. And oftentimes that slightly different angle doesn't solve all of the tricks that you've seen in the past week that you're trying to mull over.
Yeah.
But once you learn all of them, you start noticing a pattern. And, I could be, you start, as per your example for the ambitious card, you start, which is just for those non-magician listeners, it's the idea that a card goes into the deck and then comes back to the top of the deck. That's sort of a magic plot. It goes into the deck and then ends up impossibly on top of the deck over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And as per your example there, I noticed that the way that you dropped off assumptions for the second version of the trick, or of the explanation of what happened, right? I think it was something like the magician made the card go to the top of the deck, or the card, or the magician,
or made it look like it
was something like made it look like it went into the middle and then it was on the top.
Yes.
And I noticed that the difference there is just that some of the assumptions, some of the doors that you might close behind yourself while you're watching this kind of thing, don't actually get closed. Those doors get left open because the assumption is a little more vague. But you could back that assumption. I mean, just for you, I'm not sure if this is going to be coherent at all, but this is kind of where my mind goes there.
Yeah.
You could back that assumption into completely vague and undefinable territory, such that you've now gone way too far and you can't make any assumptions, right? And maybe that I'm exploring this idea with you right now. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad.
Yeah, I love that.
But you said he made it look like it went into the center of the deck. But you could also start with the magician made it look like he was holding a pack of cards.
Yeah.
Right. And then the man who I would otherwise assume is a magician
just keep
made
going.
It look like he was holding a pack of cards. Right.
Yeah.
Made me think that I was holding a Sharpie and signed the card. Right. Like you could do that.
Of course.
But then, I feel like the sweet spot is with magicians in particular is finding just the right place.
Yeah.
It's really a gradient thing. It's finding just the right place where, you might not be able to do this in regular life, but at the very least in magic and watching magic tricks, finding just the right place where you can be made aware that your assumptions are working for you or against you. Because sometimes your assumptions will work for you because there's going to be a point where you back too far into vagueness that it's ridiculous. But you might just not be aware of where that point is. Because for so many people, that the threshold there is where they assume that their card went into the center of the deck, right? If they saw that with their eyes.
Yeah.
Right? They saw that with their eyes. So if they back up beyond there, they are going to feel ridiculous. They're going to be like, oh, well, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
Like, why am I assuming that that's not true? Because that's so obviously true. I just saw that with my eyes.
Yeah.
Right. And that's it. So magicians have just like backed up that sort of gradient, that threshold a little bit, such that we can, and it's only because we've learned techniques. Like we're not smarter than anyone else or whatever. We just, I don't know how to build a chair, but a carpenter certainly does.
Yeah.
And we've learned enough of these little like ultimately childish magic tricks that we start to in the realm of magic doubt our assumptions just a little bit and we learn through trial and error over thousands and thousands of attempts that just kind of where that sweet spot is. And sometimes when you're a magician and somebody messes with your threshold, such that you are badly fooled, it just feels so good. You're like, wait a second.
Wait, back
that
up.
Coin definitely was in that hand. Like that, it definitely.
Yeah.
And you're like, I know all the ways to only make it look like, and that's not one of those.
Yeah.
Right. And so like that feeling that you get once in a while where your threshold is messed with is pretty cool. But yeah, ultimately I think magicians study the art of getting people to produce assumptions inside themselves, right? Convince themselves of propositions that the magician doesn't even have to say, you know? And so they're closing these methodological doors behind them as they go, because as they go through this sort of journey of this trick with you, because as they go, it's like, okay, well, we know the coin's in that hand, so let's just close that door, right? And we can't go back in there because we believe already, right, that the coin's in that hand. And a magician might not. They may back that threshold up just a little bit and say like, okay, well, it sure looks like it, but I'm not going to close that door yet.
I'm overjoyed that you came to that. I'm overjoyed, mostly because it's kind of validating the idea that I think magicians and mentalists are in a unique position to talk about this kind of thing. The conversations that I tend to have seem to come down to addressing the problem at a perception of some kind of scale. Like you would hear, oh, I could never learn to do that in terms of observing the cadence of how somebody speaks in order to understand what they might possibly mean, or the variations of their particular frame of where they're talking from, right? But there are those people that can seemingly move a card through other playing cards to have it appear impossibly towards the top of the deck, or whatever illusion with whatever animal. I'm not going to list a whole slew of magic tricks. Why is it that this problem remains impossible, yet this problem remains entirely doable? It seems to originate from the individual and the way that they connect to it. And one of the things that I've learned over the years is, regardless of whether you're speaking to someone who is in magic and mentalism for a couple of months or a couple of decades, or they're in law enforcement and investigations for a couple of months or a couple of decades, the ones who are more capable of connecting with the issues and the problems of whatever it is that they're working on are the people that can hold their expectations a little lighter than those who are going, no, it's that, I've seen him cross his arms, therefore he's I don't know what's the one that pops up, like disagreeable. He's checked out. He's in a mood. Or I've seen them pull out a deck of cards, therefore I know what he's going to do. Or I've seen the
I've seen that one. That's a great thing you get at gigs sometimes. Oh, when you take the cards out and you're like, oh, I've seen that one. Oh, you've seen the card trick. Oh, cool.
Right?
Cool. That's good.
Yeah,
good.
The one card trick that exists.
I'm beat. Yes, yeah. Sorry, that's my phone going off.
No, don't worry about it.
I agree.
So how do you think, purely in a speculative manner, how do you think people of all disciplines might be able to practice that thought pattern, that way of approaching certain things, of holding their positions a little lighter? Because it's not easy to do. All our brains want to do is make life easy.
It really
for
isn't
us,
easy to do.
right? That's it. How do
you know what? Okay, this is a big thing for me, because recently, because I've always been a big skeptic, but when I got into the, but I've kind of no longer in the sort of skeptic community at large, because I think that community that got a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to say toxic necessarily, but like, it actually seems as though the people in that community, the skeptic community is now associated with a very specific kind of skepticism to very specific types of propositions.
Gotcha.
And and I'm happy to be skeptical of those propositions. I share that skepticism, but it doesn't. And just largely, just so we're clear, spiritual propositions, right? And I share that skepticism, but I find the skeptic community is not particularly good at dropping their own skepticism about, or utilizing their skepticism in ways that are attacking their own sort of presumptions.
Yeah.
And this is just individuals that I don't know. Again, I'm not going to make a sweeping generalization necessarily, but the one thing that that I would just encourage everyone to start getting more comfortable with is the words "I don't know." Like when people are, when there is literally nothing wrong with not knowing. Not knowing is always a good answer. Always a good answer. And just stop pretending to know things you don't know.
Yeah.
Stop doing that. And so, we all do it to some degree. And if you can stop, you'll very quickly gain a superpower of humility and questioning. And you'll notice, I mean, in some of the questioning that I've been doing recently about the disclaimer propositions online.
We'll get to that as
or
well.
the whole disclaimer concept in mentalism. I know we'll get to that, but man, when you start questioning the orthodoxy, people get upset. People get upset, and they come back at you with all sorts of really ludicrous arguments, and they start just attacking you. And it's uncomfortable to say you don't know, especially in a group of people who definitely know in their minds. So it is uncomfortable, but just know that it is. You always have a home among the real skeptics when you're able to just say, "Oh, I don't actually know."
Yeah.
Like there was a this was a big one actually. I recently said that I don't know, and this is actually kind of true, right? I was having a conversation about this with Pablo Amira, who's another mentalist, who's a fantastic performer, fantastic mentalist, and we were mentioning John Edward, and the hypothetical that I posed, the hypothetical that I posed to Pablo was, oh God, I'm hoping that I get this quote right. I really should, because it was the last question I asked him in the video, and it's now the most important one. And I said to him, look, hypothetically speaking, if it were the case that everyone in your audience immediately left your show and immediately started supporting John Edward, or bought tickets to his show, or just were objectively, right? We have some magic measuring device, and they were objectively able to we were objectively able to measure that they were now more vulnerable to charlatans after watching your show. Would you care?
Quick question. When was the last time you trusted your memory? But your memory without checking a device. Most people don't lose intelligence. They lose discipline of attention. MindForge is a structured training system that is designed to rebuild focus, recall, and your mental stamina, but to do so in just 10 minutes a day. No productivity hacks, no dopamine tricks, no supplements you need to swallow, just cognitive conditioning. So if you want your mind to feel sharper within a week, omniscient-insights.com/MindForge, or right there. Train your mind like it matters.
Right. And his answer was just straightforwardly no. And I don't think that's his real answer.
Okay.
But I think that's kind of the answer that you have to back yourself into when you're locked into a lot of other propositions. And give Pablo all the grace in the world. He's a great guy, and he agreed to have the conversation. I don't think he means any harm, obviously, but it's not a bad answer, because what I admitted to him in that moment was, I actually have no idea whether or not people are better off for having gone to a John Edwards show. I actually don't know that. I don't have the data on that. I have my own intuitions, and just in my body, I don't have deep moral philosophical jargon, but I believe that I'm some kind of anti-realist or emotivist.
Gotcha.
And so in my body, when I see people like John Edward, just fleecing people and lying, they actually, I don't have data. They might be better off. I'm not sure about that.
How do you quantify?
As I understand, there are studies about spiritual belief that seem to suggest that people who believe spiritually are happier in their lives. And I don't know what that means. People can show me. It's fine. But in my mind, I just go, ooh, gross. Ooh, gross. I don't want to do that. Ooh, yucky. And so that statement brought me over to a great conversation that I had with, oh my God, I'm forgetting her last name, Susan something, who will be up on my own channel soon, where she's a big part of the skeptic community who does this great work in like debunking psychics, and she hits like small fish and whatever. And she does great stuff.
Amazing.
But she definitely was like, man, like it's not doing any harm. And I'm like, well, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you show me? Can you show me where, or like, is it vibes or is it data?
Yeah.
Because for me, it's vibes, and I accept vibes.
Yeah.
Right. And I have anecdotes, and I accept anecdotes too, but like not with everything, and not like as a solution to an overall, like as an answer to an overall problem. Like we all have that anecdote about somebody like buying $10,000 worth of crystals to bathe themselves in or some crap. But like, if it were the case that everyone who saw John Edward was, 1% happier through their life, I don't know. To me, it feels like robbing grief. It feels like charlatanry. It feels like some awful stuff. But again, I just don't like have really good data on it, and I'm just very comfortable saying that I don't know. So if somebody were to present me with really good data, then I would know a little better. But just pull it all back. Just pull all the dogmas back if you can, and learn some like formal argumentation, and learn some formal logic and some philosophy, and eventually we'll all just be nihilists.
What bliss that would be, right? What bliss.
What bliss that would be. I'm sorry, I just spoke for like 75 minutes.
Please, like for those that have seen the podcast before, you're in good company.
Good. Well, really quick, I should just say, my name is Kent. I do a show in Vegas. It's called Ghost Stories. It's actually a bizarre magic show. So when we get into this thing about disclaimers and whatever, it's going to be an interesting take, because I'm literally doing a spooky ghost show, and I help magicians make their shows better, and help them get into venues if they want. So that's my whole thing. All right, that was
I love that.
2-second drop.
No, please. You plug away, and when this episode goes out, all of your information, your public information, I'm not going to put your social security number out there. It will all be.
I'll give it to you. I don't care.
No, you're okay. You're
I'm
okay.
an anarchist, baby. Take the house.
Not at all.
Mine, I read.
Now, I think there is a distinct iterative value towards I don't know. Whether it comes back to being, Socratic and beyond, I don't personally care. What it keeps coming back to for me is this street video. I have no idea who was in the video, but it was just these two guys, and it was clearly one of those kind of interview style things where someone shoves a camera in front of someone else's face and they talk stuff. And this guy came out with, you can only believe in something you don't know. I was, wait. What? You can only believe in something you don't know. And I was like, that hit home. That hit home. Like, because when you're discussing all of these behavioral reading problems or investigative problems, whatever you are, what are your beliefs? What do you know? And you gain clarity on those kinds of things. If you're stuck in a routine or a trick that you're working on, I've never tried this, so I'm speculating. It might be of value to then go, what do I believe is holding me back? What do I know is holding me back in this position, to find out where your clarity is in that particular situation. Dr. Richard Paul would speak on the critical thinking stuff of having 9 standards of thought, and the pursuit of clarity was one of them, getting really clear on what it is that you know, and really, really clear on what it is that you don't. That way you can venture forwards,
The pursuit of clarity. My God, how powerful the concept.
Right. Please.
That's wonderful.
It's Dr. Richard Paul and Linda Elder, the Foundation for Critical Thinking. Wonderful stuff. they are some of the driest breeds that I've ever been through. But if you stick with them, the the weight of the material is huge. And I think they've got a series of lectures or videos or whatever they're about an hour long on YouTube as well. So if anyone's of interest, highly recommend it. But it's that position. How much I was very influenced by Fight Club as a kid. How much can you know about yourself if you've never been in a fight? Fair enough. I'm not encouraging, the anarchist violence, but how much can you know about your beliefs and your opinions and your thoughts and your ideas if you don't let them be challenged? Most of all by yourself in those situations. Like I know a lot of spiritual folks. I'm about as spiritual as I am. I don't know, something I'm not, an alien. I was like an overrun with metaphor.
Well, you might be panspermia, man. Panspermia. Might be an alien.
Absolutely. But like in the situations that I ended up in, like I met this lady who she was talking about her spiritual properties and her witch capabilities in a Reiki session. She was like, "What are your thoughts on this?" I'm like, "I know of Reiki as a subject and kind of what it's into, but I've never had a session done." She was like, "Come on, let's do it." She gave me a Reiki session. I felt great. I felt really good afterwards. On the one hand, it could be because I lay down and relaxed for a while. On the one hand, it could be that her Reiki stuff worked its magic. Me, I don't much care. Either way, I walked out of that feeling really good. I walked out of that feeling really
And
good.
there are things in between too. I mean, like I don't know if I'd call this necessarily spiritual, although it hints at spirituality in a sense where your awareness of somebody else being aware of you, right? And your awareness that they're trying to make you feel better may also generate some things that would otherwise be impossible to generate in your body.
Absolutely.
Right? Like that's possible. I don't see any logical contradiction with that.
No.
But just spitballing,
No, I agree, and it's one of those things that let's go find out. Let's go find out. Like some of the conversations I've had with religious folks. Again, I personally, I don't really care what you believe in. I don't, so long as it's not hurting anyone. That's preferentially my morality talking. You believe whatever you want to believe. So I talk to some religious folks, and then we'll have conversations about what do they believe, what do they know, because we all are on the same plane of not knowing. But the one conversation that I'll go out with somebody that holds a kind of off the beaten path kind of belief is when I get to talk to a flat earther, because to me that is how we can live on a planet where there is not only a population but a growing population that have a vested interest or a belief in this kind of thing baffles the shit out of me. So when I meet someone,
that's it's wild stuff,
mate. It's unreal. So when I meet someone, my goal is to go, all right, I know a lot about the concepts that the community would believe in, but I don't know what you believe in. And that kind of settling in those particular moments is a way for me to keep any influential biases at bay and really have an as open a conversation as is possible. And I think you've struck it from the beginning. It keeps coming back to the benefits of I don't know.
the benefits of doubt. Well, at the same time, on some level, you can make, well, not on some level, I mean, very realistically, you can make some arguments that people who are certain and have this certainty in their lives have this sort of uncanny ability of summoning the universe and bending it at their will. Like there is a certain level of drive that comes with that knowing too. So like there's a couple of, I mean, everyone's going to live in their own sort of like sort of weird spirituality centered around the things that they believe. Like I believe that if you send 100 emails a day to potential clients, you're going to get some gigs. But that's not technically necessarily true. So I wonder about this. Quick flat Earth story.
Do it.
There's every year, I don't know if it's every year or every couple of years or whatever, but there at the very least there was a flat Earth convention here in Las Vegas, at Sam's Town, which is a It's actually a casino that's like right down the street from my house, like 3
Nice.
minutes. It's not on the strip. And so I was on a plane and we were coming back to Vegas I was coming back from a gig, and I was sat with all these like teenagers and this other guy who was coming to this flat earth convention. And we were all having this conversation back and forth with him. We were kind of grilling him. And so anyway, we were, but it was fine. It was fun. He goes, look, when you look out the window, I see flat. What do you see? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
We're on the plane. And I got one quip in. You know, at the end of the day, I've never been, I mean, this wasn't the quip, but just a caveat. At the end of the day, I've never been to space. I've never walked around the world. But at the same time, man, the threshold for believing the world is round is very far past for me. Like there's, I don't know how, it's quite a stretch. And there's that documentary where they had like indisputable evidence with like that laser at the end. I don't know if you know this documentary.
I've seen it.
And then they were like, and it just ended with them going like, But anyway, so we're talking to this guy, and he goes, "Yeah, we got people flying in to this convention at Sam's Town," and I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, you must have a lot of people over there. I mean, I know there are flat earthers like all around the world." And he goes, "Yeah." And it was
Whap whap.
it was not a dunk, but it was just funny. It was not a dunk, but it was funny. Yeah, they come in from all around the world to this convention.
Right. Reverse it. Think about what you said. Come on.
Yeah. No, obviously that's not what he meant, but I was just being pedantic. So yeah, I mean that seeking clarity thing, be in pursuit of clarity is something that's really important to me. Is like, especially when I'm having sort of a disagreement with someone and trying to come to the truth of a matter. It matters so much to me that we're on the same page in terms of definitions, but some people seem to not want to be there when you're having these conversations. Like, and maybe it's because they realize what will happen if they get on the same page. Like, I actually don't care necessarily about the actual definitions of words, so long as all people in the conversation are using them the same way.
Yeah.
Like I often will just grant definitions for words that are untrue. The definition is incorrect, and I'll like, as far as I'm concerned, but I'll just grant that definition for the purposes of the conversation.
Of course.
You know, because I want clarity on the concept. I want everyone to feel the same things at the end. Not necessarily, it doesn't really matter if we're using the same words to me. I mean, obviously a shared language and shared definitions are important.
Absolutely.
But they're important in that microcosm. Like, I could spend 2 hours talking to someone about the specific definition of a word and seeing if we can agree on why this word ought be defined this way. But then we'll never, in that 2-hour conversation, get to the actual concept we want to discuss. Right? If somebody wants to call magic deception or not, for instance, right? And then we get into a deep conversation about what deception is and all that. That might be intellectually fun, but at the end of the day, if the concept we're discussing doesn't hinge on us having a shared definition of the word deception when we leave the conversation, then ultimately it might just be a waste of time.
Yeah. Two different pages of different books at the end of it. Now, that offers me a good opportunity to kind of switch gears, because our areas of work and focus, how they bleed over in terms of the information regarding the discussion of terminology, body language, and this magical concept of some of the things that it can do, in the sense that I can see your nostrils flare, and then I know what your mother's maiden name was, or some kind of bollocks of that regard. And the things that start to affect the certainly the legal representations and the legal parameters of it is the impressions around what it can do, because people see all of these television programs and see all of these people on talk shows and I don't know, White House dinners, claiming about what can be read from the subtle twitch of of an individual and not taking great pains to explain what they actually mean as part of those predicaments. And so, like in terms of the definition, I'm finding that I'm less and less enamored with the words body language, because that implies that I can learn someone like I could learn French. Like it's just a conversion system to pick up, and human beings, at least in my experience, they're not as simple, and French ain't simple. In those particular circumstances, there is yet to be a situation where I've been in where I can say for certain that I have seen someone move in a certain way, therefore it means something else. And I've done performances in the particular situation. I performed with a kind of Sherlock Holmes flair, and so you try and scale the drama around those kinds of things accordingly. But it offered me a good out in the fact that Conan Doyle gave me a quote, not me personally, that would have been great, but he gave me a quote that I can kind of escape on with, a conjurer gets no credit when that's too many R's in a row. A conjurer gets no credit when once he has revealed his secrets. And if I show you too much of my methods, you'll see I'm nothing but an ordinary man. So when people ask me, how do you do that? My response has always been, I will tell you if you want me to. I will absolutely tell you. And I've said, if it's something I've come up with, I've sat there and I've broken down whatever it is that I've come up with and shown them how it works. Or if it's I'm using something somebody else has published, I've given them the website that they can go and buy it if they want to, and learn the methods that way. There's something to be said for the kind of honesty that is needed within this kind of, whether it be deception or whatever you want to frame it as, because the bleed over of possibility, it iterates out, because people en masse, they don't have the knowledge to be able to critically address whatever it is that's being discussed. If you want to know how to critically address body language and its capabilities, you got to know a little bit about it. So if somebody tells you that they can figure out your PIN number from the way that your fingers move, maybe that's got some credible assessment to it. You need to understand all of the ways in which that is utter nonsense for that being able to work. So when it comes to the discussion of somebody's capabilities, their disclaimers, the setting that they're going through, let's start with, where are the pitfalls in the clarity around individuals' disclaimers? You can pick on any one you want.
The pitfalls in clarity. I mean, most disclaimers, and just so that we're clear, disclaimers are a magician's attempt to communicate to the audience that they are a magician and not something else. That's really to me, that is like the sort of foundational premise of a disclaimer, is that your goal here is to have the audience believe that you are a magician and not something else. Now, there are a lot of people in this conversation who think that they're not necessary because it's impossible to make an audience believe that you're something else. In the context of a magic show, or in really any context. And I think that those people probably either lack the ability to do that, or perhaps they do have the ability, but they don't have the experiences that some people who go very hard into these themes do. Like, I mean, when you were doing your Sherlock thing, I'm sure that you got a lot of feedback about how you were convincing people, moving the needle for people, about the ability that someone has to read their body language and to know what they're thinking. And this all might be mental masturbation. This all might be something that is ultimately not a problem. But I find that the people who are interested in disclaimers and interested in making sure that the audience puts them in the magician box and not in some other box are people who have a principle of honesty or a principle against miseducation, or they have sort of a moral position where they don't want to make anyone more vulnerable to the next person with less good intentions. And your intentions are good. You're doing an entertainment, you're doing a show.
Yeah.
But if it were the case that I did a show and everyone walked out of the show believing 100% that body language reading was science and not pseudoscience or not like very soft science, but like science.
Yeah.
And then those people just happen to be all picked for a jury, there might be a problem, right? And so like, because it's not. But they, in their experience, they saw someone who did it, right? They knew who had the black ball among all of these people because of how they were standing, you know? And it's like that's just not the case. It's a fun thing to wrap a show up in. Yeah. And many people who are anti-disclaimer, they have other good reasons for not. But I can render the case against disclaimers, but if you're, and I will render the case against disclaimers if you want, but to answer the question that you asked directly, because I've been circling the drain here for a while, the pitfalls when you're trying to communicate to an audience that you are something and not something else, you have to cover. To me, it starts with three variables.
Nice.
And this is again in pursuit of clarity. Number one is taking away is at least verbally, right? Taking away psychic ability.
Yes.
Disclaiming against psychic ability, disclaiming against body language reading, and then claiming for magic. And this is the thing that most people miss because they think that they are magicians, but for some reason they think that magic is lame and needs to be something else. It doesn't. Magic is cool.
It is.
You're cool. The thing you're doing is cool. You're just lying to people and telling them that it's psychic or body language reading, and you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Right? You are cool as a magician, so let yourself be a magician. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Magic is cool. Don't worry about it. If your experience with magic is that it's not cool, then you might have been hanging out around the wrong magicians, or you might yourself need to look into some like extracurricular things that are not magic related, like theater or studies in, I mean like YouTube channels like Charisma on Command, right? It's a guy from Las Vegas. Honestly, a lot of these, the theory here about magic is or the running theory is that magic will amplify your already existing personality, right? And so magic tends to attract a lot of nerds, a lot of people who really enjoy the massive return on investment that magic gives you socially. Yeah. Right? Imagine trying to play the violin for 10 hours or learning a magic trick for 10 hours. Right? In one, you're the life of the party.
Yeah.
And in another, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Put that away. Right? And so like magic will attract a lot of people who are like not like socially the best, right? And that was me in high school too. Like I vibe with that.
Yeah.
But magic will just magnify your currently existing personality. And so if you never sort of grow out of that and you never become like more charismatic and more charming or do more theater and get more direction and work with people who are like really focused and hard-assed about how you look and how you walk and how you speak on stage and all that stuff, then yeah, your experience with magic might be that it's not cool because you're just not pulling it off. And in order to be cooler, you're like, well, magic's the problem, so I got to call this something else. Maybe that could be some of the people who are anti-disclaimer. And look, not all of them, obviously. I'm just kind of spitballing. Like I said, I don't know. But anyway, so the pitfalls are that. Oh, and one other pitfall is that I see so many disclaimers, and you know who you are. You know who you are. You think you're getting away with it. You're not getting away, not with me anyway. You're getting away with it with audiences, maybe with other magicians because you're being technically honest. But if you simply disclaim against one of the aspects of what you're doing, of what people could imagine that you're doing, then you're just corralling them into the other false explanation, right? So if you do like a Darren Brown thing and you come up on stage and you say, well, Darren's actually is a good example in this whole conversation, but it's a bad example in this particular point because there's more to discuss. But if it were the case that you went up and you did like some combination of like psychic feeling presentations, but also body language reading presentations, and then you say, now listen, I don't have any powers that anyone couldn't learn.
Yeah.
I am not a psychic. There's nothing supernatural happening on this stage. In fact, I've studied a combination of body language reading, psychology, misdirection, showmanship, and magic, right? That, to me, and then especially if you do something in your show that is obviously relatable to magic. Like if you do a card trick in your show and then proceed back into the mentalism, body language reading stuff. That type of disclaimer is obviously another trick in my mind. It's just more deception because it seems very obvious to me that it's designed to corral people into the psychology and body language reading false explanation, right? They're going to, if they listen to you, which oftentimes they don't, and that's part of the rendering of the anti-disclaimer argument, right? Which is that they don't work and they don't listen.
Yeah.
But if they do listen to you, if in a perfect world they did listen to you, that type of disclaimer is obviously designed to give you super psychological powers, not make you a magician in their mind. And because they'll go, even if you say magic, they'll go, I don't know where the magic part was. Or if you did a coin trick in the routine, they'll go, oh, that was the magic part.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, man, this guy's like Sherlock Holmes. It's crazy. And it's just not the case.
No.
And even one of the biggest proponents of honesty in this field in the world, right? Banachek at I keep mentioning this story, and I don't think he meant any ill will in this or any harm, because he's one of the most like prolific mentalists in the world, but also one of the ones that's most sort of involved in the skeptic community.
Yeah. And
obviously Project Alpha, he was with Randy and all of that stuff.
Yes,
but I was stage managing for him at the Stratosphere.
Wow.
And he here in Vegas before I had Ghost Stories. And he would do a disclaimer, but it was his classic disclaimer. I use my 5 senses to produce the illusion of a sixth. And it's great. It's great. It's great as a piece of deception. It's great if you want people to believe that you're Sherlock Holmes. It's not great if you want people to believe that you're a magician, even though you use the word illusion, right?
Yeah.
And so the experience was having people walking out being like, he's doing, this is one more data point in my mind where the whole body language thing is real. These are obviously people who are not like familiar with with magic or the magic world, but still, those are the people that we tend to want to be performing for. So those are the people that are going to be the most vulnerable to that kind of deception.
100%.
And yeah, so again, all of this might be completely overblown, but these are just sort of my intuitions on. So that is a very long answer to a very simple question. What are the pitfalls in disclaimers?
Well, I mean, look, we are searching for clarity, and it's not always an easy route. A problem that is wrestled with, that is challenged, that challenges you, is it's something that's going to have more of an effect on how you think and feel and connect to the world. You know, when I think about some of the memories and experiences that influence who I am as a person, they certainly weren't fleeting, and they just the change happened and it moved on. But like, and there is bleed over from these aspects. You mentioned about the jury. There's a researcher by the name of Vincent Denault. I mean, he has a team behind him. He came from McGill University. He's doing his own thing now, but he's got the facts and the figures around the public belief and impression of what body language can or cannot do, and it's swaying how police officers are taught. It's swaying how juries are evaluating the information that they're having to sit through. It's swaying how interviews and interrogations are taking place. Now, granted, people might go, "Oh, you're blowing a dog whistle, fear mongering." I'm not. It's happening. We have the facts, we have the figures, and so all it takes is for a few people to keep going, well, someone else will do it, someone else will do it, someone else will do it. If people keep doing that, then the problem is just going to compound. And like I'm gonna say a name in this recording, but I am gonna bleep it out when it goes out for safety. The name that's kind of going across both areas is, hello there. You might remember me from the podcast that you're currently listening to. This is the longer version of bleeping something out. And yeah, now that that's done, let's get back to it. And so seeing where it's kind of gone and fallen out from there. And one of the things.
So just for clarity, because you're gonna bleep out that name that you just said, but we're talking about someone who's effectively sort of in the layperson public eye in terms of like what was it, CIA or something like that?
Yeah.
Like basically psychological techniques, body language, like negotiation kind of stuff, like what people do under psychological pressure, that kind of
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
And
yep.
And so
we're clear.
The claims that this person is making are only given their evaluation based on his warm audience that he talks to, and the fact that he is seen as an authority because he's on television and they have a pretty big YouTube channel behind. Is that enough of a disclaimer? And so you look at the disclaimers that he's making, and the disclaimers are essentially, I mean, the less than affectionate term that I have, a CV wanking. You know, in the sense that I've done this for 20 years, so therefore I'm awesome. I want to hear about the quality of those 20 years, because people who've been in 20-year-long marriages, they fucking hate each other. The length of time doesn't mean anything in that scenario. The quality of the experience is. So most of the layperson bleed over, all of they get is millions of followers, millions of books, millions of DVDs, millions of whatever else that comes along with it, TV appearances and beyond. And that's the filtration system that they use to get to truth in those moments. And so for those elements that are claiming, it doesn't matter. There's clarity in who they are. The methods are the same in a mentalist magician performer show, just as they are in other situations. They're just using different vehicles to be able to get there. If nobody's really clear on what it is that they are talking about and getting to grips with, like one of my most frequent avenues for work are remote assessments. And in the short breakdown of what they are, someone will send you like a psychological CV, essentially like a brief behavioral profile. You get whatever videos and photos that are available through open source intelligence, and then you will have to answer the question. And you go through, and on the one hand, the expectation as a result is, well, you're the body language guy, therefore you should be able to provide me an answer. I'm like, no. I'm giving you an answer. It's just not the answer that fits the disclaimer you've already heard. I can tell you this, this, and this. If you want any more certainty, I'm going to need a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm going to need a whole other access point and ways and means to be able to get there. And that still doesn't guarantee that I'll be able to get to a certain answer.
Like in a similar way that you might see a mentalist and they'll be like, oh yeah, if you raise your eyebrows at someone, it elicits a response
Yeah.
from them, or something like that. And that seems kind of intuitively true.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's something to do you think that person is being deliberately fraudulent?
That's where I would have to say, I don't know. Because there is a lot of evidence that supports the belief that he is. There is a lot of evidence that supports that, both behavioural, psychological, factual, and beyond, coming from multiple people. There's a lot of evidence for that. But until we hear person in question go, yeah, I was deliberately trying to deceive, or you can prove it beyond all shadow of a doubt because the other side is reciprocating the conversation. That's when we get into the weeds on that, because those elements circle back to he is in that position of going, well, I'm doing no harm, I'm making money, people are getting a lot of enjoyment and fun and experience from learning these things, and certainly, when you hear, and this goes beyond this person, certainly when you hear somebody say like, beat the lie detectors, or you hear someone say, read the room in seconds. If it is,
for fairness, the world has had to be to get any attention at all.
Yeah,
you have to be like super clickbaity.
Yeah,
in on some degree. That's why I'm a big fan of the Hormozy thing of just like do epic shit and then talk about it. Like I love that. But yeah, what was it? You said read the room in seconds, and what was the other one? Because I had something on that.
It was beat the lie detectors. These types of things.
Have a rabid wombat in your pants. Every lie detector. Rabid wombat. That's a Magic the Gathering reference. In case anyone didn't know.
We're going back to the Oceans trilogy. Well, I'll just stand on a drawing pin. It'll be fine. Cough.
Yeah.
It's
actually, I don't know anything about that. I don't know if that's true or false. And when I see somebody who's like in an authority position saying to me that it's true, especially not, I mean, one of the things that the people who are anti-disclaimers say, oh, it's an entertainment context. And I'm like, yeah, granted, that does some work, but I don't think it's doing the work you're thinking it's doing.
Yeah.
But if I'm actually in talks with a friend of mine who people probably would think that I think this dude is doing something wrong. He's certainly not. Not as far as I can tell. Or he's at least got good intentions. His name is Chris Michael. He's another mentalist in the magic world, and I think he might be involved in. Actually, I'm not sure. I should look this up before I say this. Hold on. There is
live version of going, I don't know, I'll find out.
Yeah,
there's no weakness in that.
Okay, there's none, because I'm just confirming.
Yeah,
love the V2 crew. Okay, so there's a magic technology that's coming out right now that's kind of under the radar, which can basically like take a lot of people's information off their phone with like a very quick touch, and it's probably. I don't know if Chris is involved in this thing or not. I think that definitely borders on, well, not borders on, very much crosses my threshold of inappropriate behavior. Because that's like, it's someone's phone. But, and you can get other like pictures and shit. It's bad. It's bad. Yeah. But generally speaking, I'm working with this guy named Chris Michaels because I'm doing a segment in an upcoming book of his. And I think I'm not sure if he's involved in that product or not. I wouldn't be surprised if he was. Okay. But that aside, Chris is like a very much body language ready guy.
Right.
And he and I have had conversations about this. I think it's probably the case that he doesn't take that he enjoys some benefit of those lines being blurred. Especially because he does actually work with people who are in as far as I can tell,
Mm.
he does work with people like the person that you mentioned before,
Gotcha.
and agencies like those agencies,
Gotcha.
in order to do trainings and things, but on the sort of like real stuff,
Yeah.
on the stuff that's like not. And you know, one thing he'll always say is that it's raising and lowering likelihoods. It's not giving you answers. And you know, when you see somebody's cross their arms or something like that, it might give you something in combination with a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, like a simple version of this is like you know,
Here's the truth. Clarity under pressure isn't natural. It's trained. Axiom is a cognitive framework, one that is designed to improve your reasoning, to improve your memory, and then the subsequent decision making that goes along with that. Not theory focused, not just inspirational quotes, mental architecture. So if you want to think clearly and do so when it counts, go to omniscient-insights.com/axiom or right there. Because in chaos, the clear thinker wins.
I don't know, count the letters of this name in your mind.
Yeah.
Right. And if it's 4 or less, it's probably going to be instantaneous.
Yeah.
And if it's 5 or more, they're probably going to have some kind of mental effort that they have to put into it. And so that's pretty reliable. Right. That's pretty reliable as a heuristic for like doing some sort of body language-y stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, for him, he is really doing it's his false method, I'm sure, primarily for his show, which I haven't seen yet, but it's his so admittedly I might be way wrong about that, but he actually is doing this stuff, so he's a great person to be in communication with about this. So I love talking to him, and largely I think on the ethics of this stuff he and I agree, but he again is somebody who absolutely could, through his magic tricks, convince people that through body language you could know what somebody's PIN code is or some crap like that. He absolutely could do that. And to some degree, I think in the past he probably has. One of the real ethical questions would be whether or not his magic show had helped to make him an authority figure in the eyes of the hirers, people hiring him, to be able to do those trainings. Because and this is where things get really muddy, is when I was doing a purely psychological show, like I was doing like a Sherlock Holmes type show. And when I was doing that, I was getting these calls and these after the show questions about whether or not I personally could train like salespeople. And it was like, that's a really enlightening experience to have, and a very strange experience to have, where it's like, man, even at the time, I believe I was doing a disclaimer, but I think it was one of those that I would say was meant to divert people toward the sort of meta deception, as Stevie Baskin would say. And so that'll just kind of ended up feeling kind of gross and weird. And the lines are just very blurry to me, and way blurrier, I think, than people think they are.
Yeah. And that's.
But anyway, sorry, I totally took us in a totally different direction than where where we started.
This is if I may, I like how conversations wander. I like exploring ideas, because if it is that I'm like, no, I want to talk about this the whole time, then I might not learn something else about the initial idea that I had in the first place. I'm just staying in my own.
Just make sure that if there's a question that's unanswered, that we swing back to it if you can remember it, because when I watch the video later, I'm going to go, oh damn, man, that we ended up in Antarctica. I don't know how that happened, but well, it's tangential either way. But
that's it. It's all connected. I think.
But we were talking about your guy that you had worked with. In the past, you know, and whether his sort of claims right now had veracity, and whether or not he knew that he was being potentially fraudulent in at least some of what he's saying. And you know, whether he was just enjoying the benefits of that authority and being able to get away with saying this stuff. And I wonder if I can give him a little more grace, just taking your word for it that
Of course.
he is saying things that are false. I can give him a little more grace if he believes that he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
And that's where magicians get in a little bit of trouble with this, because there's no way a magician looks at peeks a billet of something that someone wrote down and then pretends to do body language reading and then thinks that they have just told the truth.
Yeah.
Right. There's no way. That's not possible. It's baked into the cake,
Yeah.
right? That you have to deceive, that you have to lie. And yeah, I just like, if there's not a moment of clarity in your show, or not like some good faith, like actually honest attempt to not leave people worse than you found them. If you believe that you can do that, then if you also then care about not leaving people worse than you found them, yeah, I just think you ought to be addressing it somehow.
100%. Like, for the lines are as blurry. I think whether you are a disclaimer or anti-disclaimer, we can all agree that the lines are blurry, and for them to be a little less so, more and more clarity is needed, and specifically in that field, and increasingly in this one, you find a need for that. Just because somebody worked for the FBI for 20 years doesn't mean anything. Yeah, like it doesn't mean anything. I like the amount of times I've gone like, oh, I can't talk about that because of the NDA in place, and people are going, oh my God, that's top secret, and I've had to go, no, I just didn't read the NDA, so I don't know what I can and can't say. So I'm just saving my own bacon and going, I'm not talking about any of it. It's
right.
That's really the practice. No,
it's actually,
go on.
So I have another experience with
Please.
with somebody in the realm of the person you were talking about.
Okay.
I want to say, I've said these names before, so I'll just say them again. But like, Chris Voss is a master negotiator. Was a negotiator for like a hostage negotiator for the FBI for a long time. And we were both in the same audience at a show, very small audience, of a mentalist friend of mine. And I understand the mentalist temptation. So there's two parts to this story. Number one is, and this might kind of show you where the lines are kind of blurry. But number one was the mentalist that I was we were in the crowd for. Now I was kind of secretly part of his show in one way or another. That's kind of why I was there, and I was very happy to be there because it was a very small group of people, and Chris Voss was one of them. And I had literally just finished reading his book the first time, literally that day.
Amazing.
There were, I think, 11 people in the audience for his show, and one of them was the guy whose book I had just like totally devoured. By the way, it's an amazing book.
Come on.
And if you study the book, it will change your life. Not if you read it. If you study it, it will change your life. As is true of most self-help books that are good. You actually have to actually study them and then implement to do anything about it. But Never Split the Difference is his book. It's an amazing book. But anyway, so the two parts to this story. Number one is on the mentalist's side, and number two is on the public perception side. So the first thing was that I was in this show watching, well, not in the show, but I was in the audience watching this show with my friend. And he was kind enough to do a talk back afterwards with Chris, because Chris Voss was one of a very famous person at the time in terms of negotiation, hostage negotiation, and all kinds of different communication things. And he now runs the Black Swan, consulting group here in Las Vegas. And he, as much as anybody else, are going to be aware of, not going to be aware of what gaps they are, but going to be aware of that you do have gaps in your knowledge, right? And you will make assumptions, you will close doors behind yourself. Of course. Totally fine. But he's certainly a victim of it. After the show, the mentalist in question, Eric Walton, actually very talented mentalist over in New York City, dear friend of mine, and we're on the same page in a tremendous amount of things, and we have good spirited conversations. But Chris was like asking Eric about mentalism. and about, ultimately magic, but he wasn't using those words because Eric is a mentalist very clearly. Like he's got the whole thing. He's bald. He has like, he's got like that look.
The Maven brow.
And yeah. And Eric goes, it's like, well, basically the question was, how do you do that? I mean, the question was like, this was really cool. Thanks for sharing. What's the kind, like, how do you get into this kind of thing? And Eric goes, well, Chris, I like you, I've always had a love for communication and human psychology and how people think. And it just seemed like very clear to me that he was trying to imply that there's some sameness between hostage negotiation type communication and double stick tape on the back of certain cards. That's, there's some sameness there. And it's like, I mean, maintaining the illusion is one thing, but my goodness, you're talking to Chris Voss, but it went over. Okay. And so I have a little bit of a guilty pleasure in this story because I've been on this disclaimer train for a long time, and this magic is cool train for a long time. And and Eric, bless his heart, he was very kind to introduce me as another mentalist in the audience, as another magician mentalist. And Chris addressed me and he goes, "Hey, so Ken, what do you, how do you get started in all this?" And I go, what do you do? He's like, "Man, Chris, I have no idea how Eric does this stuff. It's just phenomenal to me. I just look at the piece of paper when people think I'm not looking at it, and then I fake it." And Eric's face just went like, "What?" I love it. Dude, I just cheat and then pretend. What? It's like, what? Oh, that's interesting. But here's the thing, and I will save this email forever. After that conversation, after the clarity in that conversation, and this goes toward the disclaimers don't work argument. This is in favor of that argument. Because after that, as clear as I was, I still get an email from Chris. I want to connect with Chris Voss. Obviously, I loved his book. I've read it now probably 12 times, cover to cover. And people should refresh on that book every year for sure. But I then follow up with him, and I get a follow-up email because I shouldn't probably give the details here, but basically he thinks that a crime has been committed, and he thinks that he's working on a crime with some guy. And what he tells me is, we think this other guy did some crime. Yeah. And we think we know the nature of the crime. And he did tell me. And I want you to tell me what you think of this guy. And he sent me a video of the guy doing like a speech of some kind at some gathering. And I was like, I told you I'd cheat. It was like, I told you I'd cheat. He put me in the box of mentalists, and clearly that box had people in it who he thought could solve crimes. Right? Like, then this is a master negotiator. This is a master of human psychology, ostensibly. This is a person who, one in our field says ought know better. Yeah. But it's not the case that they ought know better as far as I'm concerned, because we're all coming from from a privileged position of knowing how these deceptions work. And like Chris Voss doesn't. And so when he sees Eric do that stuff, that's just one more data point for him that like, oh yeah, obviously he knew that I was going to pick giraffe because of like how I look somehow. Right. And imagine a completely non-meaningful piece of information being able to be extracted from someone's mind. Now imagine that ability placed on like somebody who's guilty of some horrible crime. It's like, yeah, you should obviously be able to tell whether they did it or not. That's just going to be a totally different category of psychopath than what zoo animal I'm going to choose. This is just to give people who are fooled by this a little bit of grace, because they're not stupid.
No.
Like, they're not dumb people.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
And this is one thing that Susan said to me when she was actually, she was kind of in the anti-disclaimer camp, and I don't know where she stands now, but that's kind of where it started at the beginning of a conversation. She said, you know, people aren't stupid, Kent. They know that your tricks are tricks, effectively. And it's like, yeah, I guess. But she was like, they have resources. They can look up magic. They can look up mentalism. They can see that it's fake. And I'm like, but Susan, you're actively going against these small town psychics right now who are, they're not using our tricks specifically, but they're using other tricks. They're using cold reading. People can look that up on the internet too. People have a bunch of resources for figuring out that thing is not real. And so why are you even doing it? And it's like, yeah, solid point. I mean, I gotta think maybe it's just that we like it. Who knows?
Who knows?
But there we go. That's the Chris Voss story.
Love that. I mean, you know, we did a podcast a few months ago. Like, it's not really to do with stupid or smart people. You know, the same kind of mistakes or flaws in thinking will affect anyone, just in different ways. You know, that's the routine is different. I want to honor your time as well, so we'll move into the wrap up, and we'll just leave the questionnaire out, just so I've kept you for long enough, good sir.
Sure.
So, thank you pretty much for that. Those types of sentiments always feel a little insincere in the mouth of an Englishman. But I want you to know that I mean it. You know, it's like the way Englishmen and women, you know, English people can't really say "well done" without it sounding sarcastic to a certain degree. So I want you to know that.
Yeah, but you do gain like 10 IQ points just by sounding that way. So that's pretty cool.
That's where at least 37 of my IQ points come from. You know,
I do know some very intelligent American Southerners, but they lose about 10 or 15 IQ points in the mind of the people they're talking to, just by how they sound. And you have the opposite problem, right?
That's it. I sound like a heavily tattooed Bond villain.
Yes.
Now,
dope though.
So if people want to, need to, are able to follow along with your work, good. So where are they able to do that? Where's Ghost Stories happening? Where you mentioned the video popping up on your channel earlier. The details I will also take and put in the description as well. But for anyone who's just following along audibly or visually, where might they track you down?
Yeah, well, sure. If anyone's still with us, my name is Kent Axell, KentAxell, and I'm very easy to find. That is my Instagram tag, Kent Axell. The Instagram tag for the Ghost Stories show is Ghost Stories LV. Ghost Stories runs at Mandalay Bay 3 to 8 times a week currently, depending on how filled up the casino is, how much walking traffic we think we're going to get, but. We do pretty well over there. The show's been running for 3 years solid. I think it contains the strongest disclaimer in magic, so I'm hoping to get your opinion on that. If you ever want to come out and see the show, you know where to find it. You can reach out to me. Oh well, when you're in Vegas, I'm just going to bring you in. There's no.
I was sneaking that in.
No question about it. Yeah, but if anyone wants to come and see it, look up Ghost Stories Mandalay Bay. And or Ghost Stories Las Vegas. Ghost Stories, an intimate seance show, Las Vegas, not to be confused with the wonderful play that's in the West End. Yeah, probably the Andy Nyman play, exactly. Actually, I didn't know that play existed when I created this show, but I guess I don't know. We have a tagline, so maybe that's good enough. If Andy ever contacts me and is like, "You have to change the name of your show," I'll be like, "Yes, sir. Thank you for acknowledging my existence."
Right, 100%. Whatever you want, Mr. Nyman, not a problem. It's a good movie as well. Yes, it's a good movie.
Yeah. The movie Ghost Stories was amazing, but that's not related to the show that we do in Vegas. The show we do is kind of a play. It's like an immersive theatrical magic experience. It's kind of a narrative piece, kind of a one-man show. There is a narrative there, but if you want to just come and see a dope magic show, it's also a dope magic show. But if you want to go deeper, there's a whole narrative that you can sort of figure out while you're watching it. So so I really enjoy that as a, like an immersive theater. Like it's a really deep. There's like a lore there, you know, that we've built out over the last couple of years, and that's the kind of thing that I help magicians to flesh out in their own shows. And I also have a YouTube channel, Kent Talks Magic. And that's going to be. I'm sure I'll clip some of this podcast for shorts there, but yeah, those will. I'll definitely do a short up there that will lead over to you. So very cool. If you're a magician or you like this kind of like philosophical jargon, so far I've been doing a lot of arguing with people about disclaimers on that channel, but I'm putting up some more stuff about like how to actually the more consulty and coachy stuff that I do is going to be starting to hit that channel too. I mean, like how I personally would get more gigs if I was starting from scratch, how I personally would go and get another residency, how I'm helping people do that right now, and how I'm helping people who are currently. I'm helping produce a tour right now through my production company Unreal for some mentalists out of not the UK, out of Canada. So anyway, fingers in lots of irons on the fire. I'm trying to simplify my life, but somehow I keep complicating it. And now lots of arguing with people online about whether or not you should, whether or not these disclaimers are even appropriate. So.
Well, I mean, I personally found them quite insightful. I'll be honest with you. But thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. What a delightful experience, and hopefully this is a conversation, one of many.
100%. Make sure the comment sections are active in letting us know what you want to hear from the discussion next time.
All right. Yep, and they will, and I'll bring my people over here too. So thank you so much, Ben. Great to talk to you, and we'll see you next time. Yeah.
See you, mate. And.